Joining us now is Senator Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana. He's on the Appropriations, Veterans Affairs, and the Joint Economic Committee. And the senator is not shy about speaking his mind. Senator Cassidy, welcome back to the Brian Kilmeade Show.
Hey, Brian, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I got to apologize to you. You were on a list, I think it was in Washington Post, of people who were on the fence on Kavanaugh, and then I got word that you saw it, or one of your people saw it and said, listen, I'm not on the fence. I'm voting for the guy.
We fortunately made a statement to my hometown paper about 2 weeks beforehand, but I think that reflects the typical accuracy of the Washington Post on these issues.
Yeah, so I apologize for that. But I didn't say you were against him. You were just waiting to hear more, and then Kavanaugh spoke, and almost everybody except Jeff Flake, Susan Collins, and Senator Murkowski are there on the Republican side. Have you talked to any of those three, and do you get the sense of where they might be leaning?
I have not spoken to them personally. I've been in meetings in which they participated, but I cannot tell you which direction they are leaning.
I want you to hear Jeff Flake and tell me what you think. Cut 13.
I was very troubled by the tone of the remarks. The initial defense that Judge Kavanaugh gave was something like I told my wife, I hope that I would sound that indignant if I felt that I was unjustly maligned. But then it went on. The interaction with the members was sharp and partisan, and that concerns me.
Doesn't sound like he's on board yet.
All I can say is they were coming after him. Yep. And he was absolutely right. Kavanaugh was absolutely right in the sense that this was a coordinated campaign designed by innuendo and false representation to smear the guy's reputation, including accusations of gang rape. I mean, anybody that would not be upset. In fact, Brian, I remember when Michael Dukakis was asked in a debate, what would he do if somebody murdered his wife or something terrible? What would he do? And he gave this kind of bland, unemotional response. He got pilloried for that. And here's a guy that comes out swinging when people are swinging at him, and he's getting pilloried for that. I think he's a human being.
Listen, I'm with you. And the thing is, too, if you're somebody in society that's working their way up and then someone accuses you, it's tough enough. But when you're Brett Kavanaugh, you spent the last 30-plus years living this very laudable life on and off, on the job and off the job. And they want to go back to the 1980s and call you a gang rapist and a drunk. And you watch your kids and you see them upset, and you watch your parents and you see how humiliated they are. And you wonder, what happened to my life? I was about to get the most prestigious job in America, and now I have to worry that my integrity might be lost forever. I thoroughly get it. But the fact that people are talking about this now, temperament, and they're talking about high school drinking, does that also show you they have nothing else?
They've got nothing else, but one thing, I take a little bit of a different take on it. The people coming after him with their questions were being highly partisan. Again, using innuendo to attempt to do exactly what you were saying, destroy his reputation. He could either ignore it, he could either pretend they weren't being partisan, they weren't using innuendo and mistruths to tarnish him, or he could come right back at him. My gosh, at some point you just got to call people out for what they're doing. I think he was calling them out.
Senator Cassidy, you're a doctor first. You did this political thing this is the one of the last phases of your career. This is supposed to be given back in your mind. So I understand your frustration. You talk like a real person on a regular basis with a lot of experience. But I want you to hear what I think is this just blew the lid off Jeff Flake for me. And I like the guy. I thought for a while, I thought he'd get over the fact that he doesn't like the Republican president, but he despises him. And then I thought, well, he got yelled at in the elevator and he was overcome with emotion. He didn't want women to think that he was ignoring the allegations of sexual assault. So he called for this FBI investigation, and Republicans had no choice. But listen to why he did it. Listen.
Senator Flake, you've announced that you're not running for re-election, and I wonder, could you have done this if you were running for re-election?
No, not a chance.
Not a chance?
No.
Because politics has become too sharp, too partisan?
Yeah, there's no value to reaching across the aisle. There's no currency for that anymore. There's no incentive.
I thought he was doing what was right. Now he's talking about currency and value and politics. If he was staying on the job like you are, he would never have done what he did. What does that make you think about the authenticity here?
Let's just say that if you think something is right, You do it, and it's important. You do it no matter what, including no matter what the electoral politics. Period. End of story. And that's what you're elected for. And every now and then you take a vote and you say, I'll have to explain it, and I may not be able to explain it well, but that's what you do. And so I'm going to disagree with Senator Flake. No, from his position, that may be the case. But I'll say for the better way would be, if it's important, it's the right thing to do, I'm taking the vote, and let's see what the consequences are. By the way, I think John McCain did that on numerous occasions.
Obviously, he did that, and he got under George Bush's skin, and he got under, obviously, Donald Trump's skin a lot. And he also went after President Obama a lot when he thought he was wrong, especially on foreign policy. So the big thing in Washington now, and probably in New York, who knows, could happen to me tomorrow, is all these protesters disturbing everyday life, people trying to do their jobs or spend time with their families or loved ones. We saw it with Ted Cruz last week. We saw it with Kirstjen Nielsen. We saw it with Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And that's just off the top of my head. Mitch McConnell at the airport. And then remember Jeff Flake got harassed right here on Friday. Listen.
Look at me when I'm talking to you. You're telling me that my assault doesn't matter, that what happened to me doesn't matter, and that you're going to let people who do these things into power.
All right, we know what happened. He didn't say a word. He was saying, she was obviously had something horrible happen to her, and she was taking it out on Jeff Flake. But listen to what happened. Let everybody hear what happened when you got confronted by a protester. Listen.
Why you're supporting Kavanaugh?
And why wouldn't I support Kavanaugh?
Because rapists are bad.
Because wait a second, everybody there said that it did not happen. So why am I going to...
So you're okay as a doctor to harm a woman?
Wait a second. Are you okay as a person to go ahead and to accept a non-corroborated charge to destroy someone's life?
How many people have...
If it destroyed your life, your son's life, or your husband's?
Supreme Court. Now we go to Supreme Court.
Wait a second, you're asking my question. If it was your husband, your son, your father, whose life is being destroyed by uncorroborated, would you like that?
I would support a full FBI investigation.
And that's what she got, a full FBI investigation. Senator Cassidy, you didn't worry about being politically correct. You actually engaged the issue and the protester. She was not ready for that.
I am being politically correct, Brian, because by golly, if our country gets to the point where an accusation can destroy somebody, which everyone who is there says isn't true, I can tell you that everybody in our country is subject to being destroyed. And that is a tyranny, and we cannot tolerate tyranny.
Well, and did you know, have you been harassed by protesters? I hear they're crawling all over the Capitol building.
They're all over the Capitol building, but on the other hand, it is just time to push back. It is time to push back on people that think that uncorroborated accusations are enough to destroy a life lived above reproach up until these uncorroborated accusations. And if we don't do that, Brian, they're coming after everybody. There is no stop as to how this weapon works.
You know, that's what the president brought up the other day. In fact, he said it last night at the rally, Cut 5.
It's a very scary time for young men in America when you can be guilty of something that you may not be guilty of. This is a very difficult time. What's happening here has much more to do than even the appointment of a Supreme Court justice. It really does. In this realm, you are truly guilty until proven innocent.
And Chris Coons said as much. The president recognized this. Do you think we're talking about something even bigger than this?
Totally. By the way, the left has just started going to this. They went after Nikki Haley, saying scurrilous things about Nikki Haley, and so somehow they're going to charge again uncorroborated rumors as a way to discredit people on the right, and you can't prove a negative. So of course you say it. How do you disprove a negative? Chris Coons and others know better than that, but this is just a tactic to destroy.
All right, Senator Cassidy, give me your prediction. Have you heard that the FBI report is in? Will you be one of the senators that read it carefully?
Absolutely. I'll read it carefully because I have no doubt it's going to be misrepresented by those on the left and we have to be able to speak. Protecting the identity of those who testified, thinking that they'll be speaking confidentially, you got to respect them. But nonetheless, if people on the left are going to be misrepresenting, then people who are right need to be able to set the record straight.
So then the procedure would be, if it comes in today, you have a cloture vote tomorrow, and then you could vote on tomorrow would be Thursday. A cloture vote on Friday, and then you'd actually have a floor vote on Saturday?
It's 30 hours, and so whenever that runs out, whatever time it's first filed. If it's filed at 10 o'clock at night on Friday, it's Sunday morning, that sort of thing.
And with Senator Cassidy, would you talk personally to Senator Collins and Murkowski and make your case?
You know, we have regularly scheduled lunches, and there is a group discussion, and they fully participate. I have great respect for my colleagues, and I speak, others speak, but we speak as to a group. We're not hectoring anybody. We're speaking as to a group, respecting the need for folks to come to a decision. I think the process is working very well.
Do you think we should all see that FBI report?
If you could, let's face it, Kavanaugh has been smeared, and as Mitch McConnell says, the first line of his obituary will refer to this. That's terrible. We can't hurt him anymore. I'm actually in favor of openness, but I also recognize that people gave testimony thinking that their identity would be protected, and it may be that you could read what they said and you would be able to figure out who they are. So I don't want to be like Diane. Let me just put it this way. I don't want to be like some of the Democratic senators leaking things that they said that they would not leak. I would rather respect the confidentiality of people if they were told it would be held confidentially.
All right, Senator Cassidy, the fight never stops, whether you're in the chamber or walking in the halls, and you're ready for it. Senator Cassidy, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.